All right, testing. Let me know if you can hear me. I believe I'm live and there's sound. So just let me know in the comments, yes, Neve, I can hear you and see you. And I would really appreciate that. Just going to refresh so that I can see the comments. I love for these lives, activations, or if I'm doing a masterclass or a challenge, to be interactive. It's way more divine feminine and fun that way. Okay, so someone is here. Just let me know if you can hear me and see me. All right, you can put an emoji or whatever you're comfortable with. All right, so I'm not muted. I got sound. I can see the chat. Beautiful. Awesome. So today we're here for a Kali activation, and this is to slay your demons and increase self-worth to ascend as the goddess of boundaries. I'm so excited to share some of this. And before I do, I just want to let everyone know I guide women to come home to their divine feminine power, to see, act, and honor themselves as goddesses, to embrace their sexuality and sacred relationships, very different than normal relationships. Maybe I can share a little bit about that as well today. So sacred relationship with yourself first, and then sacred relationship with partner or partners or friends or family, right? It goes out from this inner relationship out. And then to help women nurture their intuition, creativity, passion, and infuse life with a spiritual perspective and practices. All of life is sacred and spiritual. And so when we start to really see it that way, it becomes more easeful to be in the world as a human. It becomes much more magical and fun, and it's easier to accomplish some of the things that we all want, like confidence and self-worth, which we're going to talk about today as well. So it is time to invest in yourself. If you've never done that, it's time to increase confidence and boundaries in your life so that you can thrive. So I guide women to heal, release, root down, connect, and then expand so that they don't have to suffer from unnecessary diseases or heartbreak or be disconnected from their own power and the divine. So my divine feminine initiation is starting in 2 weeks. So if you want to talk about that, please send me a message or let me know in the chat. Hi, Marlene. Yay. I'm so excited that you're here because this is a boundary activation. So thank you for being here. I'm sure it will bless you. So I'd love to hear in the comments if you have ever heard of shadow work. So if you're watching this later, just do hashtag replay. And then you can say, yes, I've done shadow work, or no, I've never heard of it, or whatever it is for in your case. And then, do you know what your demons are? You can put that in the comments. Or what are the things that you don't want to look at? And sometimes it's easy to identify these by what triggers you about other people, right? Because whatever is triggering you about someone else is probably an aspect of your own shadow that you haven't danced with yet. I like to say dance with it because we are light and dark. Like if you think of the yin yang symbol, I love it because it's a circle and the whole symbol encompasses light and dark, right? So both are part of the whole. And we have this shadow. We have stories, beliefs, trauma, wounds that are playing in the background and running our life if we don't do shadow work, if we don't embrace the dark goddess and start to figure out what those things are. What are the things that are triggering us? One of my first mentors, who I dreamed about last night, actually, she said, everything is a mirror. Everything is a mirror. And if you can start to look at everything as a teacher and a mirror, when you get triggered or upset about something, then you can discover what it is in yourself that you have left to heal, and look at and release and embrace. So Kali holds the keys to unlock and melt your ego and fear of embracing your own darkness. So I'm going to read what I sent out in the email and posted yesterday, and then we'll continue. So the goddess or divine mother holds the key to the spiritual regeneration of humanity in this ecological age. Without connecting to the deeper feminine energy of the universe, we are unlikely to solve our current global crisis that is based to a great extent upon ignoring the divine presence of the goddess in nature and in ourselves. Of the various aspects of the goddess, it is her dark forms that carry the key to her secrets and power, her connection to the earth, the night, fertility, mystery, magic, and transformation. Kali is huge about transformation. So it has been our inability to understand her dark forms and integrate them into our religious and social orders, which has led us to ignore the goddess and even to become afraid of her saving grace. That is the real power of inner growth and enlightenment of awareness. There are many forms of the goddess in various spiritual and religious traditions, viewed with both reverence and awe, like Hecate, she's goddess of the underworld. There's so many. So of the great goddesses of the world, perhaps none is as mysterious as the Hindu goddess Kali, who presents the dark goddess in all of her glory and all-conquering power. To really uncover the meaning of the dark goddess, you must encounter and come to understand the inner reality of Kali. And this could take years to really connect with Kali. And I want to share a little bit about my experience. When Kali first came into my awareness, someone said, if you start to embrace Kali, she will bring up an ego death. Like if you start to engage and worship or honor or explore Kali, whatever that looks like for you, aspects of your ego will die and it will not be pleasant. And like, that's when you look at Kali and you look at these pictures of her with holding the head, that's your ego. Like that's an aspect of your ego. Like she's holding this bloody head of a person, and it's because she's chopped off the ego. And when our ego melts or when it gets chopped off or aspects of us die, it's not necessarily comfortable, but then it's very freeing. I've gone through a lot of ego deaths and they're not pleasant, and they do, in my experience, really create this peaceful relationship with life. Like things cannot penetrate me the way that they used to when I was younger. So for me, what I did is I did chants, and we'll do a chant today, but I chanted to Kali for 40 days. And shortly after that, realized my lack of boundaries with certain types of relationships and people. And it wasn't really pleasant the way that realization came about, right? I was taken advantage of, and it wasn't a great experience. However, because of all of that, I was able to really focus on increasing my boundaries and my evolution with boundaries. And one thing that I'm huge about is sticky notes, which I've mentioned in other classes or lives that I've done, but doing sticky notes to really help integrate the next best version of yourself. And so at that point, I had a large sticky note, and it was all about boundaries. Like, I increase my boundaries, I hold tight to my boundaries, I stay true to my boundaries, those things, statements like that. And then saying no to people, practicing saying no, so that I would be able to hold my energetic space and not overgive. A lot of times when we don't have boundaries, it can show up as overgiving or helping others, or like feeling bad about saying no. And that's completely BS. Like, the divine feminine is fierce, compassionate grace, and that goes to us first so that we can give to others. And if someone is asking you to do something all the time and it's starting to suck the energy, and you notice that, that's a boundary. That means there needs to be a boundary there. It's the same thing if, like for me with the sister wound, if I'm around women and they start to talk negatively about someone, that's where I throw up a boundary. I'm like, no, I don't have time for that energetically, because I know that whoever they're talking about is divine. And maybe they're doing, like, I trust that they're doing the best they can with the consciousness they have. And maybe they're making mistakes or whatever it is, because that's part of their journey and their learning process. And there's no reason to judge or gossip. So, like, whenever that happens, it's like, oh, boundary for me. Like, I can't speak negatively about people. That's just a really hard boundary I have, because it's too low vibrational. If you saw, I have a picture, I can post it in the group, but it's like the emotions of ascension, like moving up through awareness and consciousness and love and gratitude and joy. That's where I like to be. And when I catch myself on a lower frequency, that's when I stop what I'm doing and go out in the sun or breathe or meditate or dance or do some gratitude to bring my frequency back up. So what I did and what I would invite you to do is Om Krim Kali Ke Namaha. And if you look it up on Google, like, what does that mean on Google? It says, hail to the goddess Kali, bless us, who has conscious and insightful mind, make us intelligent and wise. And it says, chanting this mantra blesses one with immense wisdom and knowledge. Yeah, kind of. So this is why Google is funny. Like, sort of, when it's saying, this mantra will bless you with immense wisdom and knowledge, that's an understatement. And it sounds pleasant. And, like, I'm not saying that Kali isn't pleasant, because she is. However, she's all about slaying the demons and the ego and, like, all of that, like, stuff that is holding you back from your awareness and your consciousness rising and, like, your frequency expanding. And so it's not necessarily pleasant to get that wisdom and knowledge, because that wisdom and knowledge is your shadow stuff. So yeah, I like Google. Sometimes it's helpful, but I would think for me, like, yes, it's hail to Kali, but the energy of Om Krim Kali Ke Namaha is like, I am willing to look at and surrender my ego. I'm willing to go through an ego death. I'm willing to face my demons and to rise as a goddess with more boundaries and in my divine feminine, right? Om Krim Kali Ke Namaha. Om Krim Kali Ke Namaha. Om Krim Kali Ke Namaha. Like that. It's not as simple as, like, oh yes, knowledge and insight. So that is your activation. Om Krim Kali Ke Namaha. If you say that, and I will just put that in the chat now, so that you have it. Om Krim Kali Ke Namaha. And only say it if you are willing to look at some shadow and you're willing to have part of your ego die, right? Part of what you think is true about yourself to maybe get shattered, because Kali is very serious with that stuff. So it's really getting true with yourself and true with others. So I'm going to check the chat, because I was curious about if you have ever done shadow work, or if you know what your demons are, or if you know something that triggers you. So let me just check the comments. I want to make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay, I don't see any comments about that. So hashtag replay about any of that. And then I want to share a little bit more about some of, let me go back to this other window. Okay, I had some really wonderful conversations yesterday with a couple different people, and what keeps coming up is like this deep, really getting into this knowing yourself so deeply and loving yourself so deeply that your self-worth increases and your confidence increases, and so then your joy increases and you can navigate life in a whole new way. And this is the stuff that I just absolutely love. Oh, look, I can give myself hearts. That's fun. Sorry, this is a little distracted by those hearts. I love hearts. So yeah, it's really interesting. So the difference between, when I was talking to one of my friends, the difference between a regular relationship and a sacred relationship, and you can't have a sacred relationship with someone if you don't have a sacred relationship with yourself. So I mentioned that earlier when I was sharing about the divine feminine initiation. And I just want to talk about it a little bit because it's not something that is super talked about or common. But when we are vulnerable and honest with ourselves, which Kali helps us become more honest because we are starting to see the shadow, we're starting to dance with the shadow, embrace the shadow. And you can't just ascend. It'd be nice. It'd be nice if we could just like grow and go up, but we can't. We have to go down into the depths. And however, it's hard to do this, but think of it like, there's one line going down and one going up. And however far down we're willing to go is how far up we're willing to ascend. And I know for me, like realizing that I didn't have boundaries, like overcoming anxiety and overwhelm, like going down, like why, what were the fears? Like, what were the core fears? What were the core wounds? Like embracing, my mother in a new way, like seeing things and healing them with that. Like now I have a great relationship with her. And so it's been able to grow and expand. And it's like the further down you go into your depths, the further up you can expand. And the same thing with a relationship. You can stay surface. So I was talking to my friend and she was talking about how the person she's dating said they're in a casual relationship. Just so you ladies know, most men would classify a casual relationship as something that is non-committal, so they can still be, they would look at it, most men, every relationship and person is totally unique, but in general, if you're in a casual relationship, that means that you can still sleep with other people and you can still date other people because you're being casual. All right, that's the assumption that people don't talk about. So when you start to get into sacred relationship, then you need to, first of all, talk about those things. You have to know what your own values are and what your own standards are and what you want. Like if you want to be exclusive with someone, you have to make sure you have that kind of conversation. Otherwise, they could be with other people and that might be hurting you and you might not even know. And so sacred relationship is like, instead of holding all the cards, you're laying all the cards on the table, and it's scary and it's vulnerable and it takes a lot of emotional communication, and you can't do it if you haven't done it with yourself. If you're still holding your own cards in your relationship with yourself, like not being honest with how you really think or feel or done any of the shadow work, if you aren't sacred with you, you can't be sacred with someone else. Once you can lay all those cards out and be open and honest and vulnerable with someone else, and they can do the same for you, which for men, that's a little bit more challenging. Women can tend to get into sacred relationship a little easier. For men, when they're with other men, they can't really be vulnerable and honest and open, or they'll get made fun of still in our society, which I think is BS, which is why the divine feminine rising is so important. So once you can do that and the other person can do that, that's when you can start to have sex magic. That's when you can start to do like tantra and gazing into each other's eyes and seeing each other's soul and breathing together and moving out of space and time. And it really takes a sacred relationship to do that. It takes that, because the woman, in order for the sexual energy to shift into spiritual energy, the woman has to feel safe and loved, or at the very least appreciated in a deep way. And so if you don't feel safe and loved, then you can't have the alchemy, the transmutation of sexual juices to spiritual juices. So anyway, all of that to say, unless you honor your own divine feminine, unless you're getting into your inner work, like your shadow and your, why are you doing certain things, and like digging a little deeper, you can't get into that super vulnerable sacred relationship place. And for me, it's been really powerful to be able to be in sacred relationships with several different people. And all I feel is love for those people, because we were open, honest, and vulnerable. the whole time. And that's not always easy and it's not always comfortable, but it really makes like, if the relationship ends, you can at least be really great friends with them because you are always honest and open and vulnerable. So I just wanted to share a little about that because I'm very passionate about relationships. And for me, like the divine feminine is about being sexual with yourself, having a sacred, sexual, juicy relationship with yourself, loving your body, loving who you are, and then being able to share that with someone else. That is like what life is about. I mean, that's the beauty of being human, in my mind. So if you want to book a call with me, I can help you uncover the blocks to stepping deeply into your divine feminine power and sticking to your boundaries, because it takes practice. Just like with intuition, if you are having these insights like, oh, maybe I shouldn't date this guy, or, oh, maybe I need to do some shadow work, right? And you ignore it, then your intuition doesn't get any stronger. But if you start to listen, if you start to follow the call, then your intuition starts to expand. So my schedule is pretty tight. So please click the link and set up a call soon because there's not a lot of space on there. And during our one-on-one heart-to-heart chat, we'll discover what's holding you back so that you can heal and release and evolve into the magical, powerful goddess that you are. So it's like a deep dive on where are you now? Where do you want to go? Like what's holding you back and what's the vision for the future? It's a really powerful conversation. So don't let unconscious wounds from the past affect your future any longer. Together, we will use my divine feminine method so that you can make a clear path to move forward on your journey. So invest in yourself, book a call. I love connecting with people and the link is in the chat. And I had 2 calls yesterday with beautiful women and it was so much fun to connect. So thank you ladies for doing that. And I think that's it. Om Kreem Kalike Namaha. If you're interested in connecting with Kali's energy, do that. And if you want to go deeper into shadow work and wounds and healing, that's what the Divine Feminine Initiation is about. It's that deep dive and then the ascension that comes from diving deep. Okay, I love you all. I hope that you have a wonderful Wednesday and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, Marlene. Thanks for being here.